we know that Indian Railways is going through a metamorphosis of sorts. There's a vibrant change in all the order flows, and you got to be here to believe the kind of activity that we're seeing at the shop floor of one of the plants of Titagarh Wagons, Umesh, or Titagarh Rail Systems as they've renamed themselves. Umesh Chowdhary is with me to talk about the kind of change that's happening in Titagarh as well. Umesh, thank you so much for having us here.
Such a pleasure. Thank you for coming over all the way from Mumbai.
Yeah, no, but it's a pleasure because it's quite riveting to see a coach manufacturing factory.
Yeah.
Now, Umesh, actually just tell us what happens here and then we'll move on to the nuances.
So this is the plant where we are doing the passenger train. This is the coach building plant. And we are doing right now the Pune metro there, which is an aluminium metro. And behind you is this bay where we are standing is where the coaches are fitted with the furnishing, with the electrical wiring and all of that, where it's kind of dressed up.
Okay.
And then we are setting up the stainless steel bay, which we will show you after that. And thereafter, there's another bay, which is for the electrical and propulsion, where do the traction motor, traction converters, electricals. So that's electronics and electrical. That's high-end stuff.
Okay.
And this is the bay. Once we close the the Pune metro, we'll start the Vande Bharat production. So this is going to be a very interesting next few months that's going to come up here.
Wow, pretty exciting. And it's been an interesting, not few months, but a few quarters, if you will, or a few years now, wherein there has been activity in the railways. Now, I would love to understand, Umesh, a lot of people say in order to understand the change that's happening in Titagarh or some of the other railway companies, it's important to understand what's happening in railways per se and the change that's happened. You've been present here for a while now. How do you see the current state of the railway industry in India and the jussa to expand it versus what has been?
So, I'll probably expand it beyond railways. I'll expand it to infrastructure. Because where we operate, we operate in two segments, the FTRS, which is the freight rail systems, and the PRS, which is the passenger rail systems. Passenger rail systems include both urban mobility as well as rail systems. So metro is a part of urban mobility.
Right.
It's not a part of the railways. It's a part of the... So I think the whole infrastructure story of the country is undergoing a complete metamorphosis. It's complete transformation. Where we stand today is, the rolling stock, the rail system that we do, is actually the last end of the spectrum. So in the last 9-10 years, and even before that, but it kind of got hugely accelerated over the last 9 years, 10 years under the Prime Minister Modi government, is the infrastructure creation skyrocketed. So, there were new railway tracks being laid, new signaling systems being provided, metros being announced and implemented. So, all the base work has been going on. And now is the last end of the spectrum, which is the rolling stock. So, the wagon demand is coming up, the coach demand is coming up. So, while we are in a capital goods sector, to an extent, when we talk about wagon, we can actually say that wagon is a raw material for the railways. And, it might sound very ridiculous, but I'll explain to you why.
Please.
The track is laid. The signaling system is done. The locomotives are already there. The people are already there. Now, that all is capacity creation. That's all investment gone in, right? How does railway recover from that investment? How do they utilize that capacity?
By transporting people and goods.
By transporting people and goods. So it's like if I have to produce coaches, I have to buy steel. So if they have to transport goods and people, they have to buy coaches. So more they transport, more they grow their business, more there will be the requirement for wagons and coaches.
Got it.
So, while the infrastructure is a one-time spend, the rolling stock is a recurring spend.
Got it. Sure. Okay.
And it increases with the growth in business.
Okay. So how, you foresee strong demand for the next few quarters, the next few years, or for now, as far as the horizon goes, you foresee strong demand?
I see strong demand as long as the India story continues. Because I don't see that the India story will stop anywhere.
But India story has been going on for a while. We haven't seen such demand.
So the base has to be there. If there is capacity, let's say if there were requirements for these coaches and I didn't have the plant, where would I produce?
Got it.
I have the plant, I have the facilities, so I have to increase my production. When I increase my production, I need more aluminium, I need more steel, need more people. Now the infrastructure base is there and it's further getting created. Now the demand is the base level system or the facilities exist to take care of the requirement. So now the requirement for the rolling stock goes up and would continue to go up. Okay. That's what our vision is.
But you are, so okay, let's assume that the railways and under the current government has turned a leaf. They are in the midst of procuring very high quantities of railway, all forms of railway infrastructure. What about Titagarh? Because Titagarh Rail Systems, you renamed yourself. You moved on from being just a freight wagon manufacturing company to multiple things.
Yeah.
Tell us, what is Titagarh currently under the current umbrella? How do you, as the captain of this ship or the captain of this coach, see Titagarh, let's say 5 years out, 7 years out, 10 years out?
We do have a small shipbuilding part as well. Okay. So you can say captain of the ship. I don't mind that.
So captain of both.
So, Titagarh now is effectively into two businesses. We call it FTRS, which is the rolling stock or freight rail systems, and the PRS, which is the passenger rail system. So where we are now is the passenger rail system factory. We have freight rail system factory, which is about 20 kilometers from here, and we have two steel foundries which cater to the freight rail system. So these two businesses, and shipbuilding is a very small part, so we've kind of merged it with the freight rail systems in operationally.
Freight, okay.
Okay, so effectively there are only two businesses that we operate in, freight and passenger. So as far as the freight is concerned, we are the largest wagon manufacturer, and we have the largest order book. Today we are sitting on 28,000 crore of order book, that what we announced last time, including both. So it's a decent order book that we have. We are now operating at a capacity of 600 to 700 wagons per month, which we are going to increase to 1,000 wagons by the end of this financial year.
Okay.
So that's as far as the freight rail system is concerned. As far as the passenger rail system is concerned, we started with the Pune Metro. In fact, we started in 2007 by making Mumbai local trains, EMUs. And MEMUs. And we got our first order in 2007. We executed it successfully, delivered more than 350 of them. Then the aspiration always was to get into the high-end coaches like these. You look at these coaches; these are as good as they get. So
they look
this is for they are the Pune Metro coaches.
Okay.
Of course, everybody loves their child, so I love mine as well. But I still believe that if you look at the metro landscape in India, these are the most attractive-looking coaches that
they're comparable to anything across the world.
Oh yes, absolutely. Okay. But in India, if you look at we did not want to have that matchbox kind of a coach. So we use our Italian engineering knowledge and all of that to come up with a coach which is good looking, also at the same time efficient. So it's aluminium, it's efficient, and all of that. So with this, we started with the Pune Metro. Now we wanted to get into the stainless steel. So we got an opportunity with Bangalore Metro via CRRC. With that, we got the stainless steel technology. Now we are getting into we've got the contract for Surat and Ahmedabad. So, that's our first direct metro contract after our first Pune contract. So that's a very significant one for us. Then we got the Vande Bharat. And, there are other tenders in the pipeline. So metro, there are more than 50 that are planned to be put up in the country. There is enough demand that is there. So here our target is that we'll have two production setups, this one and the bay number 3, and where we will have a capacity to produce up to 800 coaches a year, which is significant. So right now, if you look at historically, of course, it's not really comparable on an apple to apple, but we've been producing 3-4 coaches a month. From there, we will in 3 to 4 years time get to 70 coaches a month. So that's like a
quantum.
It's not a growth.
Yes,
it's a change.
Yeah.
And that's what you see going on over here.
Wow. Okay. So, but I still come back to my question. So, from what Titagarh is right now, what does it go into? Because here's the reason why I asked this. You mentioned the two segments that you are in, all right, which is freight and passenger. But you also have, and maybe it comes under freight or passenger, but you also have a forged wheel JV with Ramkrishna. There was an announcement last week that there is a shipping vessel development, I think that you've gotten, you mentioned that as well. So there are a lot of offshoots. Can you explain what Titagarh is and what it could be?
So there are certain businesses that we were in, which we exited.
Okay.
As a conscious strategy over the last 3-4 years, the restructuring that we've done in Titagarh, we not only decided what we want to do, but we've also decided what we do not want to do. So we exited the earth moving equipments, we exited the tractors, we exited the construction mining equipment. So, all of those we exited. Today, our focus is on the passenger rail system and on the freight rail systems. Shipbuilding is a business which is interesting, which is very good, but we only do specialized shipbuilding. It's very small, very niche. We've decided for the next couple of years not to make any capital allocation or any management bandwidth allocation to that. Of course, we are executing the old orders, but we have, the facility which we acquired in the south side of the Havra Bridge for shipyard. So that we will invest once we have fully stabilized our passenger and the freight rail systems and all our So that will be, let's say, a booster for growth after these two are kind of...
It's about 5 years out.
Yeah, 5 years out.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay, what else?
So
Forge
as far as the
wheels.
forge wheel is concerned, that is actually a backward integration for us. So we are doing the wagons, we are doing the passenger trains. Wheels has always historically been in short supply in India. So ever since, if you look at any listed company, even us for the last 15 years, every quarterly call, one question has been constant: wheel set ka shortage kaise pura karoge?
Okay.
So this is the first time the government of India, this whole Atmanirbhar Bharat, India is importing more than 500 crores of wheels from China every year. But nobody thought about coming up and encouraging private sector industry in India to set up wheels manufacturing. This government did. And that's how this tender was floated. We won the tender and we are setting up this plant, which will cater to our own requirement, cater to the Indian Railways requirement, and then make India a net exporter of wheels rather than a net importer of wheels. Now, again, if we talk about synergy, our name is Titagarh Rail Systems.
Yes.
So whatever is in the rail systems, we don't want to get into the infrastructure. We don't want to get into EPC. That's not our business. That's not our forte. But anything which is into rail systems, we will definitely be in.
So what else?
So we are now looking at backward integrating. So if you look at the coach, there are so many components that go into the coach, right? And we are looking at how do we increase our wallet share of the coach.
Okay.
By ourselves or through joint ventures. For example, the electrical harnessing and the cubicles and the cabinets and the traction motors and the traction converters, we already started doing them. Wheels we will already do. So we are evaluating whether we can do other components like the door, the gangways, and things like that. So effectively, in one life cycle of a product, so let's say if the life cycle of a coach is 35 years.
Right.
The components that go into the coach have to be replaced 3 to 4 times during that life cycle.
Okay.
So what we are trying to see if we can kind of make the model more sustainable by getting into the components, by doing the coach, but also after that not kind of sell it and get out of it, but get into the maintenance. What we've done with the Vande Bharat. We have a 35-year maintenance with it. So 35-year maintenance allows us, if we do our components ourselves, to have an aftermarket.
Sure.
And that's how we are looking at getting more comprehensive. So there are 3 advantages. First, we remove supply chain bottleneck. Second, we get the margins that we were leaving on the table to our sub-suppliers and increase our wallet share. So we do not become just an integrator of the coach or an assembler of the coach, but more and more manufacturer of the coach. So we get the margin on our balance sheet. And third, we have a recurring business on the aftermarket side. So there are 3 advantages that we get by getting into the component backward integration. So that's something that we are very focused on.
Okay. And the last conversation that we had, you had told me that one, of course, you have these escalation clauses built in or variable clauses built in to ensure that you don't suffer in the event of a margin. And you told me that you don't want to do more than 10%. You are happy with the 10%, 11% number per se. Now tell me, which is fine, which is a great strategy. You know your business better than anybody. But if you do all of these things, how does it impact the margins? I mean, how much gets accrued?
So, when we speak about 10, 11%, it's on the freight side.
Okay.
So already last quarter, we did about 11%.
Right.
So when I'm speaking about the 10-11 margin, I said it's sustainable over a period of time. So 2 years, 3 years, because there are always the peaks and the troughs that keep on coming.
Right.
So sustainable level. But again, there may be an element of conservativeness. But the whole idea is that if we can backward integrate in the freight, by entire backward integration, we should be able to improve our margins by 1.5%, even 2%. In the coach, it can be even much further. So in the propulsion, once we are able to, in 3 to 4 years time, completely integrate the propulsion system, we can actually increase our EBITDA by 3, 4%, 5%.
Wow.
On the coach, on the passenger rail system side. With the other components, it's too early to say, but then definitely there will be a lot of scope to do that.
So overall operational metrics from 10-11% console have the ability in 3-4 years time to also inch up maybe 150, 200, 250 basis points.
So there is, I would not say that it's not possible, but right now in our model, because wagon is a tender oriented business, so we don't kind of factor that in our model. But yes, I mean, it's something which is feasible.
Okay, fair call.
Because we also want to, there's always a kind of a equilibrium that one has to strike between volume, leadership position, and margin.
Sure.
So our business is one where typically the top line drives the bottom line. So, I mean, I always jokingly tell my colleagues, the highest margin business that exists is a pan ki dukan. Your patta is free, your katha is free, your supari is free. Margin is 100% if you want. But volume nahi milega.
Volume nahi milega.
So we'd rather have volumes here.
Yeah, sure. Point well taken. So, okay. So here's the deal. Your book-to-bill ratios are great. It's evident. 27, 28,000 or 30,000 crores, and your annual revenue 2,700 crores. You mentioned that there are a bunch of metro having. You also won an order for passenger rail as well, meaningfully. What are some of the things on the anvil? I'm not saying you'll definitely win all of those, but what's happening, let's say, in FY24 or FY25, next 18 months?
We heard the Vande Metro announcement, which is going to be a game changer for the country. Forget about us. I was reading somewhere, I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but I was reading how many people actually die out of falling out of a moving train in Mumbai locals every year.
Must be pretty high.
700 people.
Very high. Unfortunately.
Very unfortunate. Now, if that whole EMU memo setup in Mumbai changes to a Vande Metro setup, which the government has announced or is planning to come up with, can you imagine the transformation it will make? And that is only one city, Mumbai. All the cities in the country are going to require that. Mobility, I was mentioning to you a little while ago that I came from my second plant over here. Normally it takes me 45 minutes, it took me 1.5 hours. So, congestion, the road congestion is increasing. All of us need better urban mobility. So, railway is the best form of urban mobility.
And by virtue of all of these things, we were talking about it before the interview about the kind of growth numbers that could sustain. Could you explain that math to us?
Sure. So there are two different ones, right? One is the freight. So on the freight, if the GDP of India grows by 7% and replacement demand is around 4%, 25 years approximately for the life of an asset. So 11% additional rolling stock has to be added every year.
Okay.
And then there is always, if GDP always has a multiplier effect to the logistics or transportation. So I believe that 10 to 12% of a base of 270,000, 280,000 wagons is required every year till India's story continues.
Okay.
Then after that, infrastructure gets choked. There will be new infrastructure. We already hear about the new dedicated freight corridors, and we need to move. So there will always be a kind of requirement that will be there till the India story continues. And I think that India's story has a long way to go.
Yeah, certainly, from the looks of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are talking about becoming 5, 7, and then $10 trillion economy. So the runway ahead of us is so large that we are actually just at the takeoff point. I don't see that we've kind of even taken off.
Okay. Yeah. Now, this is the domestic opportunity. Have we missed something on the domestic side?
On the passenger side, on the metro. So there are more than 50 metros that the government has announced that they will be setting up. The Vande Metro, the Vande Bharat. India of today is becoming more aspirational. Gone are those days where, Indians, young Indians were happy living in a third world environment with third world infrastructure.
Yeah, sure, yeah, of course.
So Indians are demanding. India of today is demanding, and government of today is providing and will continue to provide. Will have to continue to provide better infrastructure, and that's the space we want to cover.
Okay. Okay, and that's a big opportunity as well
I believe that is a great
on the PRS. Okay. What about all of this capacity? By the way, so is the current capacity that you are building out, you mentioned about moving up from 500, 600 to 1000. I'm guessing that will go more. Is that good enough to satisfy the kind of order book that you're sitting on for the domestic side?
Yeah.
Or are you building out capacities to even explore the export side? Because I think today when we reached here, I got to know that you guys have qualified for an international certification.
IRIS.
Well. IRIS, okay, yeah. So tell us about that and then tell us about the export potential.
So as far as the wagon is concerned, as of now, it's a moving target because India's story is going so fast, we've got to catch up with it.
Okay.
So as of now, 1,000 wagon a month should be a good enough target. But then we will see and we will adjust and kind of recalibrate ourselves as we go along. As far as the passenger rail system is concerned, here there is a large export market, and in order to cater to that export market, we have to be internationally accredited by the standard for the railway quality, which is IRIS. So we just got our IRIS certificate now. In fact, yesterday or this morning we got the certification, and that enables us to export to European countries or developed countries and so on. As a matter of fact, as we speak, we've already got our first order for converters, for the traction converters from Italy, which is going to start production this month.
That is through the Italian
subsidiary. Through the Italian
associate company.
Firema, that's right.
Okay.
And that is a synergy that we will continue to play upon.
Okay. There was also this announcement about Skoda and Firema doing something together. Yeah. So does Titagarh play a part there?
We will, of course, evaluate. As far as Titagarh rail system is concerned, of course, we have the advantage of being cost efficient. So Europe, America, everywhere, the cost levels have been going up, and with this China plus one strategy, the natural choice is India. So we would definitely look at continuing to grow our export business or international business. For the freight side, it is not so easy because the volume to transport a wagon costs about 35-40 lakhs. A coach costs about 10 to 12 crores. The volume is the same. So the transportation cost as a percentage of the cost of the equipment is far higher in the case of wagon than in the case of coach.
Got it.
And that makes a coach export or coach international market a very doable thing.
Right. And you reckon that you will take steps there?
That's our ambition. We want to make Titagarh as a global player in this business. So we don't want to be restricted to being an Indian player. There is no Indian multinational or Indian global player which exists today in the railway field. And we read in the newspapers, and I hope it's true, about the government planning a PLI for the railway scheme. So if that happens, I think that will really be giving a big boost to companies like us, which really want to make India an international player in the railway space.
You've done a bunch of JVs aside of Ramakrishna 14. Is there something with BHEL and something with some other companies as well? Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It's not a JV with BHEL, it's a consortium agreement.
Okay.
So we bid the Vande Bharat in consortium where we have 51.8 or 52% workshop. They have 48%. They'll be doing some part of the train. We'll be doing the main, the car body and the integration. They'll be doing the propulsion. So it's a very good win-win association between us and BHEL.
So there is RK Forgings, there is BHEL, there is Firema in Italy, and possibly more.
So the whole idea is that, we want to grow ourselves and by strategic alliances.
Right.
There's no point in trying to, gone are those days where, you've got to be macho and say that everything I'll do. You've got to recognize your strengths, but also recognize your limitations.
Sure.
And in order to overcome those limitations, the best way of doing that is strategic alliances. So yes, we would be most happy to look at further strategic alliances where we can add value to the partner and the partner can add value to us.
Okay. Now, Umesh, there are a couple of questions. One, most people that I speak to, right, talk about how unpredictable the nature of cash flows in B2G businesses traditionally have been, and we can't deny that fact that it has been that way, right? So people are very constructive about what's happening in railways, but are maybe at the margin slightly worried slash skeptical slash doubters about how merry this story is, that at some point of time could cash flows get impacted, some point of time could that impact the growth story of these companies like yours, etc. Do you foresee the same too, or do you believe this time is really different, and if so, why?
So you see, the cash flow problem, normally we've seen it happening on the EPC contracts. If you really look at our business model, we do not do any project work, we do supply work. And so let me break it up, okay? So as far as wagon is concerned, these are all bought out of planned funds. So the budget is allocated at the time of the union budget exercise, that there is funding happening from IRFC, bond issuance and all of that. So normally in the last 25, 26 years of our existence, knock on wood, we've not seen payment problems happening, and we hope that it continues. As far as coaches are concerned, these are mostly funded through multilateral or bilateral funding agreements, you know, for example, KFW, ADB, World Bank, etc., etc., etc. So normally we do not see challenges in terms of the payments of these. There can be some delays on quarter ends, year ends because of budgetary constraints, but nothing which is kind of giving us sleepless nights till now. Of course, we need to see for the future, but we believe that the problem happens on infrastructure where there is a huge cost overrun. You know, the price variation clauses are very subjective. In our case, the SAP calculates the PVC. There is no ambiguity at all because it's all linked to the wholesale price index. Automatic formula is there, and the invoice goes via the SAP. A lot of problems happen with other businesses like EPC, wherein claims are unrecognized and disputed.
Sure.
So I believe that, you know, our business, while it is a B2G, it's also different because it's a equipment supply contract. And again, if I can put it this way, it's also a little niche because if the tracks have been constructed, if the metro stations have been constructed, rolling stock is required. Yeah. What will they do with the track? What will we do with the... So 85%, 80% of the investment is done, after which our investment comes in.
Okay.
So if this 20%, 25% does not happen, then the 100% becomes an NPA. That gives us a kind of a, if I can put it, insurance.
Sure. Okay. Final couple of questions. You, as you've also mentioned, right, the book-to-bill ratio is very strong. I'm presuming, based on our conversations, based on what you just mentioned about the targets that you want to go to in terms of production, that you see growth ahead. Now, my question is, the easy answer is, till the time India keeps on growing, you will grow. I know that. My question is, what in your mind is the ambition of growth? And I'm not asking for the next quarter's EPS. I'm saying from where you are right now at circa 3,000 crores, or with a ballpark 100 crores of profit, what do you foresee you could be, say, 5 years out?
So if you look at our last 2 quarters, okay, we've done about 950 crores quarterly revenue. Out of it, 85% comes from freight. Okay, so if you really look at the passenger rail system, it's almost not there,
right?
Which is starting. So 2025-26, when Vande Bharat starts, when all our metros are fully operational, that's the time the revenue from the PRS starts. So on one side, at the current levels, we are growing the freight rolling stock from 600 to 700 to a level of 1,000. This from a level of almost zero, we are going to a level of 50, 60 coaches a month. So it's a big kind of a delta that we have to cover up in terms of the order book. So you spoke about the book-to-bill ratio. I think, you know, when we talk about 2,700 crore of last year, 2,700 crore had only one 900 crore quarter. The earlier quarters were much smaller.
Sure.
So we are already kind of on that trajectory to grow.
Yeah.
Where I see that, you know, we would be we would be growing at a certain level now. We'll be at around this quarter, 900,000 crore a quarter for a few quarters, and thereafter the passenger rail system really starts coming up. And then the potential of the passenger rail system is actually to be 60% of the total company, whereas freight 40%.
Right.
So it has potential of becoming bigger than the freight.
Got it.
So there's a large, that's why I said the runway is large.
Yeah. No, but which is my point. Sorry to just probe this a little bit more and
Sure.
Just whatever you can talk about.
Yeah.
But I want to understand how Umesh Chowdhary thinks of Titagarh wagons, not 1-2 years, because that has been captured in notes. I'm trying to think of what you think of Titagarh rail systems, say in 2028 or 2030.
So when we talk
In
about
terms of size.
2030,
Yeah, 2030.
I see that the potential for the rail business, I just spoke to you about the exports. So first thing I would like to, rather than going to the numbers, I'll talk about the positioning of Titagarh. I would like Titagarh, the passenger rail system, to be a global player. I would like to go and compete in the countries which we have as Indians depended upon hitherto. So, you know, why should an Indian company just be kind of a recipient of technology and not a exporter of technology?
Sure.
And I would like to make the scale of and God willing, if everything goes well, why should we not look at becoming a global player like the large ones in the world? I mean, I would not like to name, but there are some large players. There are companies in the railway system that sit on an order book of 80, 70, 80, 90, 100 billion euros. That's the potential in the business. So if that is the potential in the business, an Indian company which is going to be most cost effective, if we can go up the technology ladder, we can go up the ambition ladder, then why can't we go and compete in that market? So I believe that this sector has a lot of potential. I always again tell my team, and I tell myself actually, that the biggest limitation is our own imagination. If something which is our biggest constraint is our own imagination, we get contented too early. So if we can look at getting into global market, we look at getting into the first world market, not into the third world market. Getting into those tenders, winning those tenders and manufacturing those coaches from here. There are companies in India, foreign companies in India, which made coaches and exported them to Australia. So that means Indian quality does sell.
Yeah, sure, of course.
So let's see. I mean, of course, now there is enough in India to be done. We will first make sure that we establish ourselves very well. The foundation is strongly laid out. And then we slowly keep on building the building blocks.
Could the size of the volumes be multiple times of what it is currently?
Absolutely. I see
in
terms of the opportunity, the opportunity that we have is we are not even at the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Now, how deep can we go into the opportunity? The time will tell.
Okay. The last question is on technology, but before that, there's also this whole talk of could USA, India, and the Middle East, for example, set up a railway infrastructure for the GCC. Now, are these opportunities that you are hearing of, and would you or other Indian companies be able to participate in that?
Why not? I mean, the Indian government today, so I always believe that Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat are two legislations or two policies that Indian government has come up, which are the most significant for Indian manufacturing industry since independence. Because it gives an opportunity for Titagarh to become what Titagarh is today, or trying to become, or aspiring to become. And there are many Titagarhs or bigger than Titagarhs that will get created by this. So when we talk about this, when you know when we are talking about the English channel being created or France getting connected to London by train, there was skepticism, you know. So today also that lies. But if you really look at on an equivalent basis, why can't the GCC get connected with India? It's possible. Can you imagine the kind of what will it do to the regional economy?
Sure, of course.
So of course we would be very, very benefited, or at least get an opportunity to participate in such requirements if it comes up. But I think it is going to be a game changer for the regional economy.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely, we'll be looking at them.
Cross fingers. Last question. On the technology front, I heard you say that you want to up the curve on the technology front. Now, is that with regards to manufacturing technology, or what, or as in the outer shell, or what goes behind in terms of, the mechanics of a coach? I mean, and where are you, and what are you doing on that front? It's a soft
everything
skill.
It's everything. It's first is facilities. So what we are creating, and if you see this entire foundation work that is going on here,
Okay.
all these machines that have come, we've kind of got the latest state of the art machines from Japan, from Korea, and this will be a fully automated. If you just see the length of this, is a single robo from there to here.
Okay.
So the entire coach is going to be built on a single setting robo, fully automated. And that's what we are doing. So we are creating infrastructure which is a little futuristic. And in doing that, we will make sure that we will be able to cater to the demand of tomorrow. So that's the first part of technology. Then there is the engineering. So we've set up our engineering here. We have engineering in Hyderabad. In Italy, we are having our associate. So a lot of these things are there. So that's for the design of the coaches, the engineering of the coaches, and then soft skilling. That's also very important. In India, we need to train a lot of people. We've recruited hundreds of graduate engineers even this year. Last week, we recruited more than 200 of them. We have adopted an ITI. We are training our people there. So a lot of work, it's one thing to say technology, up the technology curve, but the kind of work that needs to be done, the kind of detailing and nitty-gritties that have to be gone into is quite substantial.
Well, we wish you all the best for that.
Thank you very
much. And it'll be
much.
pleasure to travel in one of these coaches, because they certainly look swanky.
You can go to Pune. I was there 2 weeks ago, and I actually traveled with passengers asking for feedback.
Okay.
Yeah,
I hope it was constructive feedback.
Thankfully, yes.
Nice. Lovely. Thanks for having us, Umesh.
Thank you. It was a great pleasure.
And all the best for the quarters ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. And viewers, thanks for tuning in to yet another episode when BQs travel on site, on the shop floor, and try and understand the business from the words of the head honcho.